Well, g'day, Dave. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, mate.
Great to be here, Peter.
So, whereabouts are you right now, man? I usually like to put a graphical location down on someone before we get going.
Well, I live in the mountains in Costa Rica. This is my home office. I work out of. My wife and I moved down here about 2 years ago when we started making our living on the internet, and so it's my little studio. I got a little camera back here and a bunch of equipment lying around. It's actually a pretty big mess. If I could move the camera around, I'd show you the awful mess that I work in here. But we live in a big house, nice view out here in the front, and this is where I live most of the year. I'm here, and then sometimes I travel back to the States for seminars and things like this. So Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, there you go, man. So what are you working on right now that's taken most of your focus? Just quickly.
Well, I've been an internet marketer for the last, but I've been internet marketing online for the last 3 years. About 6 months ago, I launched my own affiliate company called the Empower Network, and we brought in 10,000 paid customers. It took us 45 days to do that. Our first month, we did over $1.5 million in sales. We've done over $1 million in sales a month since then, and we're now in month 6, I believe, that we're in now. We have 23,000 paid customers and are in about 170 countries. So most of my time in the last 6 months has been spent working with technology that's been breaking from servers overloading, dealing with banks, for processing transactions, and they see a long-haired hippie kid and they say, "How can you possibly sell like this? I wear a suit and went to school. You're just a hippie in the mountains, and you're in Costa Rica. I'm skeptical. Are you a scam artist? Things like that." And then also, coaching, mentoring, teaching people, working with my teams, and just helping people kind of get to the next level in their businesses. So that's kind of been consuming the majority of my time for the last maybe 6 months.
Okay, yeah, because I've been watching your progress. Because as you know, I've been following you guys, or you particularly, for probably about 2 or 3 years now, since that first article marketing webinar you did on MLSP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just want to show you something too. I want to show you something too. See this here? You probably can't read that. That says David Wood Modeling Info. I got a whole folder of. You remember your 8-day free program you used to give away? I don't know if you still give it away when you sign up to your list.
It's still there, but it's kind of convoluted. I just keep adding to it.
I wrote down your every single day word for word and practice doing that presentation so I could learn how to do presentations. Really? There it is right there.
There you go. It's funny. Rob Four, who's the only person, by the way, in MLSP that matches my conversion level. He gets about 0.5% lower conversions than me on his sales, and he's the only one in the whole system. Everybody else gets like 0.5%, 1%, and I get 8.75% sales from my leads there. And he has a person in the Philippines transcribe everything that I ever do word for word, and he reads it.
I did that. That used to be my video series for a little while. Yeah. I even copied your PowerPoint presentation, but made it my own. Gave it my own names, my own twist. But
you were one of about 1,000. So.
But I thought, man, I don't know how to do this, but this guy does. So I'm going to do that. But anyway, man, could you talk a bit about how you got started? Let's go way back. There's a story I want you to share from when your dad took you to your first meeting when you were about 13.
Oh, yeah. You want me to go way?
Just quickly kind of share that story, but then let's fast forward to you living in a van in Hawaii.
There's no quick, but I'm not the master of brevity. It's not my greatest strength. I ramble and sell a lot of shit sometimes. So I've always been a little bit scompus, right? I mean, you know that from getting to know me. People see me and they're like, "He's weird," but I want to buy stuff, and they can't figure out why their credit cards just kind of levitate towards the screen when they're watching my presentations. It's just this. It's a power. It's like Kevin Trudeau. You watch him and you're like, "What are you talking about?" And then you want to buy some book about how a magical pill cures all your diseases, right? Yeah. Well, so I'm 12 or 13, I think, is how old I was. And I was living in Fairbanks, Alaska. It's where I'm from. My dad was a Superior Court judge. He graduated from Stanford and Cornell. He was actually a salutatorian in his high school. My grandpa was the university president. My mom was a valedictorian in her high school. And so I come from like this educated family, right, that like loves education. Of course, I was 13, and I mean, just look at me. I was flunking every single class. I mean, I got, I think, I think I had 8 classes. I got 8 straight Fs. In fact, the only reason I didn't get held back in 8th grade was because my parents elected to, they could do something and override me failing and like manually push me to high school because they didn't want me to get me held back because I was a smart kid. You know, I just wasn't doing anything. I was skipping school every day. So anyways, I'm driving in the car with my dad, about 13, and I'm sitting there with the beanie like this, looking mad like a 13-year-old does, and I'm failing every class. My dad just he gets annoyed, and he kind of blows up. I do it too, but a lot of men do that, where you get agitated and you just say, you snap out like that. So he looked at me, he said, "Son, you're not stupid. What the hell's going on? If you keep doing this, you're going to be poor." And I was sitting there just being mad like a teenager normally. And like, what the hell are you talking about? Because I guess he'd been fuming about my grades for about 3 months because I just was failing everything. And he said, "You're failing every class in school, son. If you keep doing this, you're going to be poor. You need." And I said, "What does school have to do with making money? You went to school. You don't make very much money." And I was 13, right? A little smart ass, right? And, because he worked for the state. He elected for that. He didn't go after the private attorney route, which is the only people in law that make money are in private practice. People in the state don't make a lot of money, relatively to high-paid lawyers, and he was really good. He had an ethical thing with defending guilty people, so he didn't want to go into being a defense attorney, and he was specifically in criminal law. Mm-hmm. But in any case, so he looks at me and he says, "You're going to fail in life." And I said, "Well, if going to school is the only thing that's going to make me succeed, I'm going to live in a dumpster. Because I'll tell you something, I don't like school, and I think it's a bunch of horse shit." Right? And I'm 13, right? So I said, "Dad, is there a way for me to make money without going to school? Because unless there is, I'm screwed." I'm just being a smart ass. You know what I mean? I probably could have pulled it together and got good grades in school had I wanted to. And he took me to an Amway meeting. True story, right? So my dad's thinking, he's thinking, well, he's gonna fail at everything. Let's get him an Amway, right? I'm 13, so I walk into this Amway meeting. It's Fairbanks, Alaska. Little room. We're in a Salvation Army room. There's about 15 people there in Alaska. The women do weird things with how they dress. Like if you ever heard an airplane, you could fly everywhere in the States, and people kind of look professional airplanes, And then you get in a plane to Alaska, and just the whole scene changes. Everybody looks just I don't know if you've ever flown there, but everybody just looks awful. It's hilarious. But they do things like they wear a dress with like thick wool socks. You know what I mean? So they'll wear a dress down to their knees, and then they'll have wool socks that go up to their knees, and it looks really awkward. So the speaker walks in, and he's kind of like looking around. He'd flown up from Seattle to do a presentation, and this guy was not interested. He was boring as snot. And there was 2 guests in the room. It's the only thing that kept me entertained. There was me, a 13-year-old. And there was a homeless guy. Somebody had actually offered this guy like dinner to come to the meeting. They're like, and after you hear my story, maybe you'll go start prospecting homeless people for your business. It's not probably a good idea. But anyway, so somebody dragged a homeless guy into this meeting. The only thing that kept me entertained was this guy kept interrupting the meeting. Well, the speaker didn't care because there was no guest there but a 13-year-old, and I'm too young to join, and the homeless guy didn't have any money, so why not just have fun? I'm here anyway. So he's doing this presentation. This guy keeps interrupting with like the classic, MLM questions, what I mean? Which you guys listen to this interview, you might not run into these questions because you might not be in that industry. But in this industry, every industry has its own objections. In this industry, it's, is it a pyramid scam? Yada, 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 yada. So this guy keeps saying things like, is this a pyramid scam? You have to sell soap door to door. Wasn't Amway sued by the FTC in 1976?
Yeah.
Are you trying to swindle us? Things like that. Like through the whole meeting, he just would interrupt in like this burst of like saying, right, where he just burst this question out, and the guy would chuckle, and then he would just play with them for a minute, and then continue on in the presentation to the 13-year-old and the homeless man, and then the 20 old Amway reps that had been in for 20 years and go to the meetings every week, right? But then it got to the magic question. And I'm sitting there like this, and I'm just kind of chuckling because I was like, why the hell's my dad taking me this thing? But then this homeless guy, he asked the magical question. He said, how much money are you making? Now, I was thinking this guy was like my dad, had a job somewhere, made no money, and just went to the meetings at Amway. I had no clue. I just thought people at Amway got together and sold soap to each other. I had no idea anybody actually made any money in that thing. Apparently there's a lot of them. And he goes, how much money you make? And this guy, he was like this. He's a Jewish guy, a little bit shorter, and his shoulders shrug like this. He's got glasses, and he says, "That's a good question." And he turned around, and he says, "Well, I'm just going to start in an Amway, so it's not fair." And I said, "Okay, here he comes with the question dodge, right?" But then he turned around and he said, "Last year on my tax return, I reported $210,000." And I put my hand, my arms went like this to this, and I leaned forward because my dad was making, I think, $80,000 a year after Stanford and Cornell, and this guy was boring, dropped out of school, and I was thinking, well, this is a familiar story, and he was making $210,000 a year, which was like 3 times my dad's income after a long life of really, really hard work. And this is, back in 1994, I believe, when I was 13. And I leaned forward and I said, if that dumb guy can make $200,000 a year selling soap and vitamins to homeless people and teenagers, I am going to be rich in Amway. Yeah. So I think I couldn't join Amway because I was too young. So I actually joined like a Ponzi scheme, when I was like 13, and I put a bunch of envelopes in everybody's mailboxes trying to get them to join that thing. And then the FTC shut that thing down. I think this is like ancient when I was a kid. Printed off a bunch of letters that had give $5 and everybody passed the chain letter around, and then when it's like 80 zillion people, I get $25,000 or something was my little scheme I got into. But then ever since then, I kind of had this thing in my mind about alternative ways of making money because I just couldn't deny that the industry worked, and so that's how I got exposed to it. Long story short, didn't get involved in the industry till I was 21. I went to a year of school, then dropped out, was a missionary for a couple of years, came back and moved to Arizona. I was in England traveling around teaching stuff, and then came back in Arizona. I actually joined Amway. I got resold. I'd forgotten about that. And my brother called me up. He lived in Arizona. He was going to Thunderbird International School Business, yet another educated family member. Mm-hmm. He's the top 1% of his school, best international business school in the United States. My brother calls me up one night. He says, "Dave, we're going to be rich." And I said, "Oh, what are we doing?" So he says, "You got to come over to my house Thursday night at 8 p.m. I'll show you." And I was thinking about it like for 2 days, just like wondering. I was thinking about, how are we going to be rich? Right? How are we going to be rich? And so I went over to his house, and he drew out the Amway plan. And I didn't even really understand what the hell he was talking about because he was new and he rambled for like 2 hours. Yeah. But I was like, I am in. Yeah. I didn't ask questions. I didn't ask, is this a scam? I mean, I remembered that experience from when I was a kid. I was like, this is that thing that one guy was doing, making $200,000 a year, with a room full of old people. I'm going to be rich, And so I got involved in Amway in 2001, failed for 3.5 years, wandering around, hitting people. I don't know if you've ever been approached in Walmart, Peter, where somebody walks up to you and they say, "Hey, you seem like a sharp person. You keep business options open." Well, that was me for 3 years. I wouldn't go to bed unless I had talked to like 5 people every day. Seriously, I wouldn't go to bed. So I had nights where, and this is what I thought worked, and this is what we could really get into is what works and what doesn't. I had no way of knowing. Of course, there's things that are better to do than that, but I had no way of knowing that wouldn't work because I was told it would work, right? So I just assumed it would work because I didn't I called my sponsor. I said, "How do you do it?" It was my brother, and then he said, "Well, let's talk to the upline." I called the rich upline. He says, "What?" I said, "What do you do?" And he says, "Make a list of your family and friends, invite them over." And I said, "I just moved to a new town. I haven't talked to any of my family or friends for 2 years because I was just doing missionary work. So I'm kind of at zero. What do you do if you don't have any family and friends, right? Or if all of them are poor?" And he's like, "Oh, well, go meet people." I said, "Well, where do you meet people?" He's just like, "Well, shopping malls, Walmart. I mean, there's people everywhere, right?" So I didn't go to bars, right, at the time. And so I was like, "Oh, okay." So I got this audio tape. It's by a guy named Bill Hawkins. It's called Prospecting for the 21st Century, old Amway audio. And I listened to it every day for like 2 or 3 months, and it taught me all these lines to say, right? So I used to go into like a Walmart, or I couldn't really go to Starbucks because I had no money, because I was working, I think, a telemarketing job at the time during the day, then wandering around at night hitting people up about Amway. I'd dress in my little suit that I had. It was kind of worn down because I'd been missionary for like 2 years, and I'd walk around in a suit, if you could imagine, Peter. That was me. And I'd just walk up and I'd say, "Hey, you seem like a sharp person." They'd say, "Oh, thanks." Nobody ever is offended by that. They think you're weird, right? So it is a weird thing to say. If you walk up to a random stranger, you say, "You seem like a sharp person." They're thinking, gay or crazy, but keep going.
Or both. Keep going.
They're like, stop, And so I used to walk up, "You seem like a sharp person. You keep your business options open."
Yeah.
And they'd say, as a matter of fact, I do. I'd say, well, let me get your card. And then I'd do that for a couple hours, and then I'd spend maybe half an hour calling people that I'd met maybe a day before, because I would never try to set an appointment the same day. And I'd sit down and do it, an hour-long presentation over lunch. I was just awful. And I didn't know I was awful, but looking back, I was completely awful. I mean, I had the worst presentation. I was doing what I was told, which hadn't worked in 20 years, but these guys, were sitting on organizations of, $10 million a month in sales that they built 20 years ago. They weren't in the game. So I was listening to people that hadn't been doing things in a long time, and that's a big lesson there. And it just didn't work. I think, 3.5 years later, I had a grand total of about 15 people who used to come to my house on Wednesdays and pick up products, and I had 2 shelves where I had products stacked from the top. Now, this is not a negative reflection on Amway. I like Amway. In fact, if I was going to look out and say, should I join in network marketing, I'm almost tempted one of these days to just join Amway and put 10,000 people in it just to show people it really is irrelevant what you're selling. It's how you sell, right? Because I could do it today without an issue whatsoever. Amway is no different than selling a brand new startup company. It might be a commission level difference. You might make more or less in one or the other, but it's no different than selling coaching. It's no different than selling an info product, an ebook. It's no different than speaking from stage. Selling is selling is selling is selling, right? It just is the same thing. So today I could build a team of 10,000 in Amway, and I could probably do it in about 6 months very easily. Although I don't know if they'd let me do what I would do to build it. It might not be allowed, right?
Yeah. Just hold on a sec, Dave.
My cussing, right?
Yeah, just hold on a sec.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Guys, can you just take me back? I got my 2 sons in there. One's 10, one's 3, and our rabbit food is covering the lounge, and it's also chaos, but that's all right. That's out there now. But I'd say,
you're in Australia.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. No, anyway, carry on. Sorry to interrupt.
No worry. So in any case, I like Amway. I'm not saying this is a negative reflection of Amway. My experience was not successful, but that doesn't mean the company's not successful. They just had their best sales year ever in 2011, actually. The first year they had a $1 billion month in 2011. First time they ever did it. Most of their growth is international in Asia and some of the countries that haven't had network marketing in it for a long time. But they're still growing. 70 years, you can't challenge that. So it's not negative Amway. Just looking back, obviously I didn't know what I know now. And so I quit Amway, blamed Amway, of course, because I tried, I listened to 8,000 audios. I really did follow advice. I wasn't one of these rebels that tried to do it my own way. I actually did it the way I was told, but the way I was told did not work with my personality at all. And so eventually I just joined another thing. I said, well, it must be the thing, because I'm doing what I'm told. I've seen it work for others. It's not working for me. It must be the thing's fault. So I'm going to join something new. So I joined another company. It was a legal services company, prepaid legal, another fantastic organization. I didn't have a lot of success there, but I made $1,200 my first week. And it was from recruiting my team in Amway into prepaid legal. It wasn't from anything new. I brought a bunch of people in, and then it didn't really jive with me. Again, great company. They have a great product. They're based in North America. I kind of wanted to build it internationally because I like working with people in Australia and England and all these places like this, and I didn't have the ability to do it there. It's a nation-specific product, but a great company. And so I jumped to a new deal. That didn't work. Blame that deal. Jumped to a new deal. That didn't work. Blame that deal. And then I joined a company that was brand new, right? And this is in 2006, right? So this is all, we're talking, this is like, well, it's 2002 originally when I got in. I said 2001. It was actually 2002 in July. So this is 2006. It's like 4 years of failing, right? And I'm still around. And stuck through that. A lot of people would have quit in year one. I just kept going and going and going and going and going, and I was tenacious the whole time. I'm tenacious now. I've been tenacious since I was born. I've always been like this. I just didn't know what to do.
What kept you going, Dave?
So joined a company called, I'll leave the company's name out, actually. They're still around, and I like them, and I'm not involved anymore. But joined a company, it was a vitamin company, in a team with 2 guys, Eric Worre and Randy Gage. Eric Worre, he runs networkmarketingpro.com, great friend. I'm going to go speak at an event with him actually in May in Las Vegas, and was 2 levels underneath him, and that's where I got to know Eric, and I saw him I saw him right in front of me put together a team of like 50,000 people, and it was like 6 months or a year or something like this. Right in front of me. And at the same time, I accomplished absolutely nothing. It was the same track record that I experienced my whole adult life. And at the same time, I saw him right in front of my face put together a team of 50,000 people, like he was just pulling cash out of a invisible curtain. It was unbelievable. And so then, rather than saying, well, the company must be working, I knew it wasn't true because I saw him do it from zero, right? And he didn't bring over a team of 10,000. He built it from zero, right? He's a really ethical guy, and he just doesn't do that. And after that, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, maybe it's my problem. You know, maybe there's something that I'm doing that I'm just repeating, that I learned that doesn't work, that I keep doing, thinking that for some reason it's going to work. And that's what you call living life like it's a lottery. Life is not a lottery, right? There's lotteries in life, and the more successful you become, the more consistent your luck becomes. But life is not a lottery. So I stopped looking at it like a lottery, and I started asking, what am I doing that's causing people to not join, right? Because I like network marketing. I'm still in it. You know, I just built a team of 23,000 people in the last 5 or 6 months or whatever, since October 31st till now. So, what's that, 5 months? And I started questioning the fundamental root causes of why people weren't joining me, what was causing it. And I started analyzing and breaking it down. And I still was building offline, doing everything, you know, meeting people, because I burned out all my warm connections by that point. 5 deals I tried to get them to join, and they wouldn't join anything. And so I had to go from zero, and it was still through a warm market, was doing no marketing whatsoever, other than just belly-to-belly marketing. And I put together a team of about 1,000 people the next 6 months, just by deciding to change and deciding the buck stopped with me. Right? Can't pass it on to somebody else anymore. I got to take responsibility because I knew I'd seen what I'd seen. I mean, it was different in Amway because they'd done it 20 years ago. It's really easy to blame the company. But when you join someone, you're failing, and they put together a team of 50,000 people in a year and a half, or whatever it was, you can't blame anymore. So I stopped blaming. I started taking responsibility, and that's when it started. And so I did that. That company, it wasn't massive income. I mean, my best month there was like $5,000. It wasn't the dream lifestyle. I was doing meetings all the time. But I just, you know, I got married in 2007, and I just stopped doing it. I just lived off my little $5,000 a month income off in la married land for like 6 months. And then after that, I didn't want to get a job. When I worked for Discover Card, because my income was nothing, and I didn't feel like wandering around anymore. I wanted to do things differently, so I started researching different ways to do it. And I didn't really do anything in the industry for maybe a year. And then I started playing around again in 2008, but I wanted to do it different. I wanted to do things in a way where I could work part-time. I could do it from anywhere in the world. I wasn't tied to meetings. I could do them if I want, but I didn't have to. And I wanted to have people compelled to work with me rather than having to grind, right? So I started questioning all the beliefs that I'd had about the industry that really I just learned from listening to audios. And then I ran into the right thing at the right time, which for me was MLSP. I ran into MLSP in July of 2009 and joined it, didn't do anything for a month, just kind of looked at it, started looking through the trainings. And then in August time, I decided on a marketing strategy, which for me was article marketing on the internet, because this is the true story of how I started doing article marketing. It is actually a lot harder now to do it like I did it now today, because there's so much, especially in the niche, there's so much competition. You really got to know what you're doing. It's a really advanced skill set. It takes 6 months for a normal person to learn. But I picked it up really good with content. I can create content that compels people to buy stuff, and it just does, right?
I know. I read it. I see it. I've bought stuff.
And it floats towards the computer and enters itself in the screen. Just like you may be feeling right now. You may be saying, I want to send money to that guy. You're welcome to it, of course.
Yeah, we'll leave a link below for it.
A link to buy stuff will magically appear now. Right? So anyway, I decided on article marketing. true story, because I was homeless at the time because I just didn't feel like working, and my wife didn't really. And so we went and we lived in a van in Hawaii, and I was in a Safeway in Hawaii. My van was parked on the roof that I lived on because they had a parking area on the roof over in Waikiki, the Safeway there in town. And I looked up on the internet, bum marketing, right, or homeless marketing, I think is what I looked up. I looked up homeless marketing, and I found this ebook that was called Bum Marketing, and it was about a homeless guy who started making $3,000 a month by writing articles.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do that, right? Because I'm good at writing, I'm good at talking, I'm good at speaking, I'm good at communicating. Much better than like wandering around prospecting. I'm very awkward doing that, but on that side, I was like, it's natural for me. It just comes out. There's no effort with it. It just flows, right? So I just started writing articles, and that was maybe August in My Lead System Pro. 3 months later, had my first $25,000 week. Not from the articles. Everybody thought I made money doing article marketing. You know that's not true because you've broken down my videos. I make money selling stuff. A lot of people make a mistake where they say, "Oh, I need leads to succeed." No, you don't. You need to be able to sell leads, and then if you get them, and then you can succeed, right? Yeah. But a lot of people have leads and make no money because they're not good at what we do, and what we do is not get leads. What we do is we sell stuff. Get leads are not selling to them. And so that was $25,000 a week. I've never had a week since then where I've made less than $5,000. Today I make from $3,000 to $10,000 a day, every day.
Now, I just want to break that down a little bit, because a lot of people are glossing over it now. What was the purpose of the articles, and what happened? Yeah, like, so you were doing the articles, and what happened? Like, break it down for someone who might not know what you were doing.
That's actually really good. I always forget who I'm talking to unless I'm, in front of
Yeah. Because the people this is directed to probably might not know anything like this.
Okay. Well, on the internet, right? The internet, everybody mystifies it, right? The internet is just driven by content. Like if you do a Google search, what do you find? You find an article, you find a video, you find a picture, right? Or a document or something. That's it. The whole internet is driven by content. That's all it's there. That's all that's driven by. Content and information, right? So if you want people to find you on the internet, you got to create content. And the ways that you do that are writing articles, making videos, right? Putting pictures up, right? What do people comment on Facebook? A funny video that they see, an entertaining video that they see, an engaging video that they see, a political video that they see that engages them, right? They comment really long, drawn-out things on, articles that are controversial, right? This is the framework that drives the internet. What drives Facebook? Social engagement, which is people writing small snippets and comments and opinions and arguing with each other and bickering, right? or in love with each other, or getting engaged, right? It's the instant communication. This is what drives the internet. So writing articles, one of the best things I think that any business owner could do, because not only does it help you get leads, but it helps clarify your thinking on whatever you're trying to master. If you're going to be a speaker, why not start a blog on public speaking? You might say, well, I'm not a speaker yet. Well, start reading about it and watching videos and learning about it, and then writing about what you learn, and the act of writing will clarify your thinking and make you a better speaker, because your thoughts will be able to come together in a more concise way. So I started writing articles. People started finding the articles. Now, there's a strategy involved with what I did that's more than just writing articles that now today I wouldn't do, because the market's changed a little bit and Google's changed a little bit. But I would still write articles. It's absolutely the most consistent strategy. And from those articles that I wrote, my first year and a half, I did about one a day. And I barely ever do it now, truthfully. I don't really write articles anymore. And I still get 30 to 50 leads a day not from what I do now, articles I wrote for my first year and a half, and I haven't done it for maybe a year and a half. And so it's a sound long-term strategy. In fact, blogging and article marketing are the only strategies that have consistently, like a rock, for people to stay consistent with them since the internet hit around. The only ones. Everything else comes and goes because the internet is not driven by PPC. When you're doing paid advertising, when you're doing pay-per-click, you're doing paid advertising towards the traffic somebody else created through writing articles, making videos, and creating content. So you're targeting their traffic, whereas when you blog, you create your own traffic.
Yep.
So it's a good strategy for people who want to get traffic. But that doesn't mean that you're going to sell stuff. That was the mistake a lot of my students made. And so I did that when I got started because I needed a way that didn't cost any money. Well, blogging doesn't cost any money except for your hosting and the design of your site and things like that, which can get a little bit pricey, but you can do it on your own if you want to do a crappy job, right? And there's some other services that are available. I sell a blogging service as well. It's our core product. That's all I teach people to do is just blog daily and learn how to share that information. And that's grown my entire network. I've done millions and millions and millions of dollars in sales from free marketing.
Okay, I just want to say one thing here. So in your article, you'd write an article, keyword loaded. So it'd come up, someone would find it, read it, and then what? You'd have links in there. They'd click the link, visit your blog. Then, yeah, could you just sort of walk us through that little process just after that?
It targeted a question. What I did was actually different. I didn't really do any keyword research ever because I don't need, because I just ask questions about what people ask. And so what I've always done, I always talk about keyword research because not everybody has that ability to do that. But what I did was actually a little bit different. I would look at something that got a lot of traffic, and I would go to Alexa.com, even though it's not a perfect, accurate measure. It's relative. You can tell if somebody gets traffic or none. So I would go to a website, and I would look for websites that got a lot of traffic on Alexa. The lower the score, the better. Just go to alexa.com. You can download a toolbar, and you can see the traffic score on every site. And I would look at their site. If they got a score under 100,000, which is in the top 100,000 sites in the world, I would look at it and I'd say, okay, this person actually gets some traffic. So then I would ask the question, if I was looking at this, what questions would I ask? And I would write articles answering the question. So I'd just look at some, search it, and ask questions that I would answer. And that's actually how I did the whole thing. I didn't do keyword research. I didn't really stuff my articles with keywords because one of the keys with content is if your content stinks, nobody's going to buy stuff from you. So the thing that was really compelling for me, like if you're a speaker, you should study copywriting, you should study hypnotic speaking, you should study neurolinguistic programming. There's all kinds of things that will make you a better speaker if you want to speak, and you want to sell stuff. If you want to entertain people, it's different. But if you want to sell stuff, it's also no. Well, if you embed that in your writing, it's like a blog turns into a never-ending sales process where people will go and just read stuff and continue to read and watch stuff. They'll spend 18 hours on your site, and then they'll just go buy everything that you have. So it's actually a really strategy. It's a slow build, but it's very consistent, and it's worked for the last 20 years on the internet, which really there's nothing else to say that. Excellent.
So that's how you got started through article marketing, and then you got the platform of MLSP. They recognized, hey, you're doing some good stuff. Come on, teach that first lesson that you taught there on what your strategy was back then. That's actually where the penny dropped for me on how it works, how the internet works, how SEO works, what Google ranks and why it does and why it doesn't, and content and all that sort of stuff. I use what you've taught in that one lesson in all my stuff. Like that what you taught me there pays my bills for the companies that I help.
Well, the thing is, and this is an important thing, I made it look so easy. You remember how easy I made that look?
It's not.
Yeah. But you got to make it look easy if you want to sell. See, most people, they try. That's a great lesson, though, because people, my buddy Chris, he's actually, I pay him to do my SEO now, because as soon as I had money, I was like, screw this. I'm not sitting here all day backlinking articles, right? So I hired people in the Philippines first, and then my buddy Chris got it really well, so I pay him more, but he does a really good job for me, and I don't touch it at all. And I don't do any of my SEO. Because if you have money, just more focus on selling more stuff, not SEO. It's awful. It really is awful. But when you're getting started, you need to learn it if you don't have big budget. So the thing is with you obviously know a little bit about NLP because you've said a couple things modeling David Wood. You have a big notebook that comes from NLP, NLP language there. But in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, there's a thing called chunking, right? Where basically you can chunk to be more ambiguous, or you can chunk to be more specific, right? And chunking to be more specific would be if somebody said, I need a new tire for my car, right? And you said, well, what kind of tire do you need, right? And you said, well, I need a snow tire. And they say, would you like this kind of snow tire or that kind of snow tire? But do you want one with this feature or that feature? And they keep asking specific questions. Well, this is the section of chunking that most people tend to gravitate towards when they're training. The problem with it is that it's completely unrelatable to a new person who you're trying to sell to. If you try to be too specific in any sales process, nobody will buy. Because people don't buy off specifics. They buy because they think that it looks, they see it as the thing that's going to solve their problem. And so the way to do it is to chunk the other direction. This is what I do in all my training. So rather than saying this is exactly where to put your link in your article, right, and doing that trainings like that, that's cool, but it doesn't sell anything, right? And I'm in business to sell stuff. I'm not in business to sit there and handhold 8 million people and to be a tech guy in India that earns $3 an hour. It's not what I'm here to do. And so what I do is I chunk the opposite direction, and I look for. It's the same example. Somebody says, I need a new tire for my car, and rather than asking what specific thing they need it for, you say, why do you need a tire?
Yeah.
Right? Why don't you have a tire now? You know, and it goes a totally opposite direction. It goes towards ambiguity. So I chunk towards ambiguity, which always leads down to principles and concepts. And I teach from principles and concepts because you can make something that looks very complex simple by chunking in that direction. So when I'm training, I always chunk towards ambiguity. And so if you look at that article marketing training, I virtually taught nothing. I taught concepts, but everybody remembered what I teach is still. Everybody copied the training and did it on their own. And there's thousands of people still doing article marketing because they got it watching that. It's an important lesson. And controversial, my SEO guy, and he's a good teacher too, but he's better at one-on-one. I had him do an SEO webinar for a product that we have, and truthfully, and he knows, so I can bring this up, it was just awful. It's just horrible. I mean, you know, he just went into every damned detail, and by the end of the webinar, 100 had dropped off. I mean, he literally lost 2/3 of them because he showed them everything, and they don't need to know everything. They need to know the next step, concepts, and to believe they can do it, and that there's a path in front of them to follow. Because if you teach them too much, they feel overwhelmed and they'll do nothing anyway, right? So that's stuff that I use a lot in teaching, and it's why a lot of my training, it seems so simple. When I'm teaching things that really do take a lot of skill, is because I chunk towards ambiguity and concepts, and I always go until I get to the root principle of why something is, and I teach from the principle because it's always relatable, easy to understand, and you can teach somebody who has absolutely no skill, you can teach them why things work. And when they know why it works, they can always find the skill.
That's awesome, man. Like now I hear you explain that, I can see, or I've been on those trainings, so I can sort of sense why I got it more than other trainings that I've gone on those specific, like, he does great trainings, Jeff Hoffman. He's like a very detail-oriented, specific, but I'm an analytical thinker, so I get into that as well. But no, that's really cool, man. And so
Jeff Hoffman doesn't sell a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
If other people sell stuff for him, he sells a lot.
Yeah.
Jeff Hoffman is not good at selling.
No, but
he's good at teaching technical information.
Yeah.
Here's teaching technical information does not make you a lot of money. And you got to decide who you want to be. And most people, if they're in this industry, even speaking, they might have these lofty ideals about helping people. You're not going to be able to help them if you can't sell your products to them. So don't be afraid to sell. And being a technical person, being a support person, none of these things are high-paid jobs. I mean, we have support people. We pay $10 an hour. You can get support people in the Philippines for $3 an hour. Telemarketing is not a high-paid job. People in network marketing, they always talk about calling your leads. Telemarketing is a $3 an hour job from a master's degree graduate in the Philippines.
Yeah.
It's a $3 an hour job, and they love it, and they're better at prospecting than you and I are because we're not telemarketers. So telemarketing is not a high-paid job. There's a lot of things, and this is what we've got to ask. What is the most high-paid jobs in the world? If you're going to look at the job, what's the most high-paid job? Well, selling. And I don't mean prospecting. See, a lot of people, they confuse selling with prospecting. They think the sales guy is the guy who's chasing people down. That's a $5 an hour job. Selling is the act of creating that relationship that causes people to decide to pull out their credit card and give you money for whatever it is selling. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with prospecting. That can all be outsourced to poor people who like to hang out on the phones all day because it's what they do. And they're much better than you and I. I am not a telemarketer. I'm not good at it. people in the Philippines, seriously, they speak English probably more grammatically correct than me, and they're better at prospecting than me because they're required to talk to 150 people a day, and if they don't do it 3 days in a row, if they shoot blanks, they get fired by the outsource company I use for that. So why would I prospect when I could have somebody doing it for $3 an hour? That means that I'm taking my time, whereas I'm making $5,000, $10,000 a day, and I'm taking $5,000, $10,000 a day time. So I might work 5-6 hours in a day. That's $1,000, $2,000 an hour if you want to look at it like that. Well, my money's more leveraged than that. But if you look at that, if I'm making $1,000 an hour and I can pay someone free who's better than I am, that's not what we do. That's not a salesperson. By selling, I mean the art of communication. Everybody needs to learn it, especially if you're going to be a speaker. The other thing that is really useful to study is it's really used to study team building. Because if you want to get good people surrounding you, you've got to learn how to work with all kinds of personalities. My industry, I have to work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are independent and who think differently than I do and who have their own goals and dreams and desires and who don't want what I want necessarily. And we've got to learn to not control them. For example, they don't have to show up at work. I can't fire them. I can't reprimand them or they'll leave. And they're here for their own agendas, with their own goals, with their own intentions to fulfill their own desires. And so you motivate a person like that differently than you motivate a typical employee. So team building, communication, these are all incredibly useful things, right? Those are the $1 million a year, $2 million a year jobs. Don't get stuck in this garbage. SEO is not $1 million a year job. You do it if you got to do it. You know what I'm saying? But then as soon as you can, get to selling it and have somebody else do it. And then you got something else to sell, right? You don't want to be doing SEO. I think it's just awful, honestly.
Yeah. So, that's a good point, man. I get, if you're the guy doing it, you're not the guy getting the money for most of those things that you just talked about.
Exactly right.
Now, in the one thing I know about you, Dave, is you're a masterful presenter, right? When you're doing your speaking and that sort of stuff. Can you maybe share with us your first gigs at really sort of presenting information, and maybe some lessons that we could learn from you about how you've become a great presenter of information? Because I saw your last presentation, the one out the back there. You got the nice whiteboard, and the people, they start doing a thing, and then they start doing SEO, then they start something else that doesn't work, and then end up back at the start. I was just watching that one the other day. Yeah, so how did you start presenting? Tell us about a horror story. Tell us how you got good, and talk a little bit about that other process I just mentioned.
So let me tell you the secret formula. The secret formula to getting really good at selling stuff, which is the only reason you'd want to be good at presenting, probably because it's what's going to make you your money. And I just blunt like that. I'm just going to tell it what it is. You say, well, I want to help people. Okay, well, help them when you have money, not when you're poor. You got to sell stuff to make money. So let's go make some money and then help people you want to help. So, I look at it like this. There's 3 steps, and you guys are going to say, oh, come on when I tell you this, but this the truth, okay? There's 3 steps to becoming an amazing salesperson, and you got to get good at selling. And again, we're not talking about the guy that runs around hassling people. We're talking about targeting your market, bringing them to you, and you're getting them to make that decision. That's what you're doing. Yeah. You're signing. Right? Step 1, you got to love to be sold. You got and period. If you don't love to be sold, you'll never be good at selling. A lot of people, they're resistant to buying, and it's not good for them. And I'm serious. I'm totally, absolutely serious, because if you're resistant to, if you don't love to be sold, you'll always resist seeing the presentations and the people that will sell you stuff, because you don't want to pull out your credit card. And if you don't see them, you can't model them. How can you get good at selling if you don't love to be sold? You have to love it. You have to love the buying process. Yeah. You got to love when you get entrapped in a presentation and you get glued in and you say, oh, snap, and you pull your credit card out. You got to love it.
I love it. I love it. I get it. I get step 1. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's unreal.
2, you got to get sold frequently. Okay? And don't be a cheapskate. Now, if you're poor go watch presentations that sell cheap stuff, right? And what I like to do is I get up, and I don't do this every day, but I do it probably 10 or 15 days a month, where I'll go actually search for a sales video to watch or a sales letter to read. I'll look for one. I'll actually go out looking for stuff to be sold, right? And I'll read them or I'll watch the video. And if the video makes me buy, I'm not resistant to it at all. I just go and I sit there and I say, I wonder if I'm going to buy this thing, right? I'll read the whole letter. I'll skip to the end and look at the price. I read it like you should read it, which is top to bottom, or I'll watch the whole video all the way through, and I'll say, I wonder if this will make me buy, right? And if it doesn't, I won't ever watch it again.
Yeah.
But dang, 5, 10 times a month, 5, 6, 7 times a month, I see some video that just traps me in, and I'm like, I'm going to be rich. I already am. But, I mean, the hair on my arm, it stands up, my eyes go like this, and I lean forward, and I say, oh, snap, this is amazing, right? And most of the time, the products aren't that as good as the video. But I will pull out my credit card and buy right then, right? And in the moment, right? And then those videos and those sales letters, I'll read them again 2 or 3 times, and I'll say, what got me? Right? What got me? True story. You know Dagan? You ever met him?
I haven't met him, but I know. Yep.
So Dagan's a friend of mine. He gave me his product for free. He has a product called Maximum Leverage. It's a continuity program, $100 a month. And I never go into it. I never log into it. And he gave it to me for free, and I still went and bought it. And here's why I bought it. And people are like, what are you talking about? And let me explain why. I went and I bought his stuff because I wanted to experience his sales process after I saw his sales video. Because he gave it to me for free, and I was like, I gotta watch this video. And I watched his video, and I said, you gotta be shitting me, I'm in. And I pulled out my card, and I made a decision. Because I love buying. I love being sold stuff. There's nothing better than being sold from somebody who can sell. To a guy who understands that this is how money flows, nothing better, right? You just gotta smile and pull out the credit card and stack up the debt for a little bit till you know what you're doing. Don't be skimpish with your money, because otherwise you'll always be poor, right? You say, I don't want to. Just train me what to do. They are training you what to do when you're watching the damn sales video. They're training you what to do. You have to go through that experience. And you're probably like, oh, come on, Dave. I'm telling you the truth. And so I go through his sales process, and I bought everything in his funnel. Bought it all.
Yeah.
It was that good. And that buying experience has made me about $500,000 in the last 6 months. Because some of the stuff that I use in my sales process is stuff that I learned by buying that product. If I hadn't bought it, if I had just gotten the free product, I would never have known those things. But because I didn't wuss out, we always say don't be a wussy, just pull out your credit card. We always say things like that. Don't be a weenie, just decide to buy. Right? Yeah. But because buy button right below this video. Hey, guys, there's a buy button. Don't you just feel like, here, you guys are watching this interview or listening to it or whatever. Don't you just feel like pulling out your credit card and just buying something? Just do it. It doesn't matter what it is. Just buy. Just hit the button and buy. Anyway, so I go through, and I would have never known that had I not bought those products, right? I learned more from going through that process of buying than I've learned from almost every course I've ever bought. See, the trainings, guys, it's not where it's at. It's you're watching the trainings to learn to sell stuff. It's what sold you the training that's the most valuable part.
Yeah.
But you got to go all the way through the buying process to get the value of the experience. Another thing I bought, Mark Hoverson did an info product. Did you buy that? The info blueprint?
No. I think I was on that call, but I can't remember. It was a while ago now.
I was in the top 10 affiliates for that, and I still bought it. You want to know why I bought it? Because I wanted to look at every part of the funnel.
Yeah.
Right? Every video, I exited out of the page because I wanted to see, is there an exit pop-up? Right? I just wanted to know what Mark Hoverson would put in an exit pop-up. So I went and I bought the product. It was a great I didn't go through the product, truthfully. It was a great sales process, and I learned enough from that. Right? I spent, I think, $500 to buy something, and I don't care. I just am going through to learn. Right? I'm not going to ask for a refund, because refunders are wussies, right? And maybe I'll go through it sometime this next year, but I didn't even go through the products. Who gives a crap, right? I just want to be sold the thing and learn to buy and learn why people buy, and that's why I'm going through it. That's why I'm buying it, right? Upsells. I wanted to see the front-end sales product. I wanted to see the down sells. I wanted to see the cross sells in that funnel. That's why I bought it, because I did it for free because I'm one of their top guys. Getting it for free does not teach me anything, right? I don't get to feel it. I don't get to experience it. Get the rush of emotion. I don't get to enter my credit card into the screen and see how easy it is to buy the upsell, and I don't get to see what kind of technology they're using if I don't buy it, right? I got to buy it. I got to make the decision to buy. So I went through this great thing. I exit out, had exit pop up, said, wait, before you go, I have a special offer, click cancel. And so most people say, I'm going to leave the screen. But a good percentage of us, we say, I wonder what they have. And I was just looking to see if you had an exit pop up, right? And most people would not, they don't think like this because they're trying to skimp and be cheap, right? It's never going to make you any money. If you want to make money, got to love buying. You have to, right? I'm telling you, as somebody who loves it, you might have a great sales letter sometime. Watch the audience here, and I want to buy it. Send me your sales letter. I'll go read it, and I'm not going to give you advice probably on it. Definitely not for free, but I'll read it, and if it sells me, I might just buy some crazy thing you come up with on how to feed your dog properly or whatever it is. I don't know. But I clicked the X, and I said, I wonder what's on that page. So I clicked stay on the page, and then he had a survey. He said, hey, look, obviously I just didn't do that. He said he had this video. He's like, this is Mark Overson, and I'm so touched that you decided to stay on this page and help me out. I need your help, and here's why. Obviously, I didn't do a good job. Can you just tell me the one thing that I could have done better to get you to make a decision? Because this information can change your life, and that'll just help me in the future because I really care about this information. It's that valuable. It's that important to me.
Yeah.
5 questions, and it was all objections. It's like the only 5 objections you ever get, right? We all have everything, right? The same objection. You had all the objections there, right? Like, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, it wasn't clear to me, I got back. And each answer had another video.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I clicked on, and then you clicked back to the page because it cookied you, so I had to go to a different computer and then go back to the page to go through the other videos. And I went through all of them. But I think I clicked on I don't have the money just because I wanted to see what he said about it, right? So I clicked on I have the money, and obviously I do because I was going to buy it. I was just going through the experience, right? I clicked I don't have the money. I clicked next, and he says I need to, and it went to a video, and he says, hi, this is Mark again, and I just want to tell you as a friend that if you don't have money to buy a $200 product, you have a problem in your life that needs to be changed. You're never going to solve that problem by being cheap. Let me tell you a story about how I got started in the industry. That he went wrote about how he got started in the industry. Right? He had a video for every objection. So if I didn't love buying, I would have resisted that because I'm like, it's just another launch. I don't want to buy something. Just teach the skills. The launch is teaching you the skills.
Yeah.
Let's produce the biggest sale in the niche. And so if somebody says, I don't want to go to the sales pitch. I want to go to the seminar. The sales pitch is the best seminar. Go, Because when you run across one of these magical people that you sit there and you start like this, and then you go like this, you're like that, and then you go. Then you start going like this, but you don't want to leave the video to get your credit card because you're so entrapped, you're like sweating because the timer's counting down. The price is going to bring me a credit card, When you experience that, you've just gone through what you need to learn, right? So what are you doing being resistant to that? What are you even, what I mean? So those are the 3 keys.
Well, I think that was number 2, wasn't it? What's the first one?
You got to love to buy.
Yeah.
Love to be sold.
Yeah.
You got to love to be sold, right? You got to be sold frequently.
That's it.
And then, part I didn't say, the third magical key. Yeah. You got to do to other people what just got done to you. Go copy the process, right? Like he did the little thing how to model Dave Wood, right? Why? Yeah. Because I got him to buy stuff, right? You probably bought the article submitter that day.
Yeah, I did.
You probably did. And
I loved it.
So, yeah, they loved it. You loved the experience. It's a crappy product now. Don't buy it. Don't find the video and buy it. Dude, people still bought that after the programmer died or something. People still bought it for I made like $100 a day off that product for the next 6. I couldn't get people to stop buying it because everybody put those videos everywhere. They had my link in it. Right? I made like $200 from that product.
Yeah. there are products that I love to buy. You're right. I totally get that whole thing. So what's step 3?
Yeah, and then you copy it and you repeat. You copy it, you repeat. You copy it, you repeat. You can't copy everyone's personality, but you can copy the energy of what you like. Like a lot of people. Here's the thing that I got. Yeah, it's also the curse. It's you have to pin me down to a time, and I'm like, dude, because I know if I book a time, I just am not going to show up, and I'll forget to show up, and then somebody will say, well, get a scheduler and write it down in the schedule, and then then I'll lose the scheduler, and then I'll have to buy a new scheduler, and then I'll forget where I put that one, and I'll lose the paper if we had a time. So I never book any time. I just work whenever, and I stop whenever I want. Right. And so, like an hour ago or whatever, you were using. I said, well, just hit me up on Tuesday, I think is what I said. And I would check on the computer, and then today, when I saw your message, I was like, oh snap. We were supposed to talk. Are you available tonight? And you said, yeah. And I said, I'll be available in 15 minutes. I actually forgot for like the next. So that sounds like a little bit of a curse. You're like, oh God, how do you get anything done? Yeah. Well, the other side of that is I'm very fluid and creative, and I catch people off guard. Because people see me, they don't think that this is a guy that makes $5,000 a day. You just don't. And you're like, but then I could prove it, right? And I can show you how I do it. And it makes sense. And it, like people, there's no resistance to that on the front end. And it's one of the reasons why what I do sells so well. So you're going to have things. I catch people off guard. I went to the MLSP conference. Okay, they have the Live the Dream 2 event. I asked every speaker in the room. I prepared my presentation 5 minutes before my speech. I didn't know what I sold, right? Yeah. 3/4 of them got up and they were throwing money at me, and they didn't know what they were buying. Yeah. Because I didn't have it on the order form. I literally made the product up 5 minutes before. I turned it actually into a good product. Now I sell that product for $1,000 because I think it's really valuable. So now that's a $1,000 product in my funnel. And I gave it to them for $47. So they actually got a smoking hot deal on that, right? But I actually got up. They had the order form. You weren't there, so I'll tell you about it. Brian will like about it. Yeah, he's mad at me at the moment, but it's okay. I love him. I had the order form. It said only $8 million on the top in bold red letters. And then it said secret of happiness. It said yes. It had a checkbox, and it said, yes, David, give me the secret of happiness for a one-time payment of only $1 million. I had no big black letters. and I had a place to put their credit card information, right? So what happened is I walked out, and I had a T-shirt on that had stains on it, right? Because I don't buy clothes. I don't really buy anything. I just think this whole thing is hilarious, right? So I walked out, and I had stains on my T-shirt, and I was wearing no shoes and was wearing shorts. And this is like everybody's wearing a suit and being very serious and all this stuff. And I go up, and I said, everybody pull up the order forms, and I had these guys passing them out, and everybody was kind of bursting into laughter through the audience as they were getting the order forms, right? I said, just so you know, it's $1 million. And I said, so if you have less than $1 million, you just set this down because it ain't for you today. Yeah. And you can just enjoy it. They burst into laughter. And I said, but if you got $1 million, stick with me and just pull your credit card out and set it on the table because you'll need that a little bit later on. And everybody burst into laughter. So they thought it was a joke. And I did price conditioning, with another speaking thing. And I was making fun of everybody is what I do because I think price conditioning is hilarious, but we all do it. And I put $1 million, $7. And then I gave people 3 minutes to buy or the price was going to go to $300, right? So what happened was I went, and it's not 10, and I said, would it be worth 10,000? And they're like, yes. And then I said, but it's not 10,000, it's 5,000. Would it be 5? And they're like, yeah. And I said, but today and today only, but only for the next 3 minutes. When that clock hits 0, your opportunity is gone. I crossed out and said, $47. Stand up and pull out your credit card. Cross off $1 million, right? 47. And 3/4 of the room ran at the stage, just throwing money at me. I didn't even tell them what it was. So, the thing is, that's what you need to experience. You need to experience things like that. And people are resistant to being sold, and it's not going to help. Especially if you're a speaker, you're going to be one poor speaker if you don't like being sold stuff. Yeah.
That is awesome advice, man. I want to buy something. Where's my credit card? Stamp it. Put it in there. That's unreal, man. Now, and I just want to move on a little bit from the sales thing. We'll just talk about team building. What are some key things that you've discovered about building a team? Because you got raving fans, man. You got like thousands and thousands of fans. What's important about building a community and keeping the community together and growing?
Well, there's a lot of things. A lot of people want to build. It depends on your niche. If you're trying, speaking though, as a personality business, it's not a. There's a lot of businesses that you can detach from. So, not one of those businesses. You can detach in the sense that you don't have to do $3 an hour work. You can outsource that stuff. You can outsource your telemarketing. I still know speakers that cold call all day. I mean, it's just unbelievable waste of their time. They make $20,000 a month and they cold call 8 hours a day. And I talked to one of them actually. I gave some advice. He'd written a book. He sold all these books. And I was like, cold call like 8 hours. He was like, yeah, that's how I get my speaking gigs. And I was like, dude, Philippines, $3 an hour. You know, I mean, you go do Google search, train somebody to do, just talk to the decision makers. You don't need to be doing this garbage. 2 hours a day, he could make 5 times the money by outsourcing because his money is made speaking. It's not made on the telephone, right? Team building, the first thing that you got to do is you got to be willing to trust people because it's a problem, and you got to set people free. You got to set people free from expectations that are unrealistic, and you got to believe that people can do what you give them and let them do it. It's the first thing I think is really important, is because a lot of people, they'll give you a task and they'll micromanage you to death. Really miserable, stressed out person. Spend your whole life trying to get people to do stuff the way you do it. You know what I mean? Because they're never good as you think that you could do it, and you're probably not even that good. You just are a freakazoid, truthfully, not good at everything. Like it was a big breakthrough to me to realize, I'm not the best prospector in the world. Telemarketers are. Nobody better. If somebody does that for a living and they're on the phone 8 hours a day, some of these people have been doing it for 10 years on the phone 8 hours a day, and they love it. They're obviously a lot better than me. For example, in the Philippines, it's the number one job in the Philippines is telemarketing. They go to school for it. Not right. So could I possibly be as good at talking to people a day? Because I hate prospecting and I get nervous and my hands get clammy and I sit there and like this and I'm like, oh God, I got to pick up the call and I get distracted and I go play ping pong or jump in my pool and then I like doing it. So trust people to do stuff. And the next thing is, I think for especially, it depends on what you're doing, and this is why I'm trying to be a little bit short generic, because I think marketing and team building is a little bit different on the way. Different because we're building a group of volunteer entrepreneurs that are all doing things with their own volition, with their own intentions, and with that, they're different. With an entrepreneur, for example, you can never boss them around, and I do it all the time in our niche. And you're like this with speakers too. If you get a customer who's coming to a seminar and you boss your customers around, they're gonna leave and go find some do it their way and just support them and let them grow. So, for example, in a job, if you had an employee, if they're doing something wrong or they want to just do it their own way, usually you have to sit down with them, you have to have a talk, right? You're going to have to say, hey, I see you doing something and it's going to cost us money. It's not going to be effective because you're paying them to sit there, right? Well, in my niche, you can't do that. You can't do it even when you know what you're going to say would be better if you said it. So what you got to do in our niche is you just got to let them do it, no matter what it is. Not answer a question that they don't ask. Because if you sit there and you tell somebody says, I'm going to do this, and you say, dude, don't do that. If they don't ask you, you crush them a little. You crush their spirit, right? And you got to say, oh, tell me how it works. Let me know if you need any advice or something. Because if they're telling me this is the way I'm going to do it, and I tell them how I think they're going to do it, I know they won't do it my way, and they're going to be like, that jerk. That's how. And that seems awkward because I do know better almost all the time. Yeah. Like in our industry, example of something really stupid. A lot of people, they think marketing, and what do they think about? They think about TV commercials, right? We'll talk about one of the least cost-effective, most complicated things to do in the world to sell a product. You can do direct response on TV, and it's a very tight and high-volume business, and barely anybody knows how to do it, right? So what they'll do is they'll do a commercial that says, hey, just join the business, come join, and they think that it costs them an astronomical amount of money, and it's never going to get results. And they could get 20 times as qualified leads with a fraction of the effort by doing almost anything else, right? However, if I tell that person, don't do TV, if he doesn't ask me, now here's the difference. If they come to me and they say, hey, Dave, I got a question. I have this opportunity to get on TV, right? I have an opportunity here. What do you think about it? And I'm going to say, well, what kind of TV? Is it an infomercial? Is it a commercial? And I'll ask them a few questions. And most of the time, because who I'm talking to, because they don't understand the business, I'm going to say, absolutely not. Don't do that. The reason I'm going to tell them is I know it won't work. But I'm not going to offer that freely to people unless they ask. So it's like you always want to leave before they want you to leave. You always want to leave it a little bit open-ended. You leave an open loop, right? You leave a question in people's mind on what's going to happen. Because then they want to see you again. They want to keep asking you. They want to keep being around. They want to keep coming to the seminars. You always got to leave a question in their mind, something that's going to happen next, this mysterious thing that's going to happen after you buy. And when you come to the next seminar, you're going to see this is really going to make a lot of sense to you. When you meet us in our event in Atlanta, Georgia, you're going to learn things that nobody's ever been able to teach because they don't know. And then at that time, we're talking about when we come out, we've got plans for releasing a product at the next seminar. I can't tell you what it is. I'm just going to tell you it'll change your life. You got to be there.
Yeah.
And you just leave the question. Don't answer the question, and you leave. Why? Then they want to be right. So that keeps people around you. Is there's always got to be a little bit of mystery. You can't. This is another problem in being too technical. Is when you're technical all the time. I know a lot of stuff that I don't teach people. Why? They never ask. They're not ready for it, and if I tell them, it'll blow them out. So damn complicated. You know what I mean? Like how I construct my language. You just don't even go there. You're too new, right? Unless somebody's at a different level, they paid for it and they're asking about it, and then you tell them because then there's always something new, right? There's always some mystery there. You always kind of keep mystery in your business relationships, or people won't want to be around you. And the other thing is to lead by example, and this is the last thing that I'll say. Is a lot of people say this and very few do it. And the reality is in my niche, what people do most times, they build a big organization, they sit on them and babysit them, and then they forget what they did to build it, which was not sit on the babysit them, right? It was engage in marketing and communication and connecting with people, right? That's how they built it. And they forget how they did that because it's like any muscle, it weakens with lack of use. And so then they sit there in these organizations. Well, when they do that, their organizations stop growing because they're listening to the leader who's doing nothing, right? Who shouldn't be listened to anymore. So it's really important that you're doing what you're asking other people to do. So that's one of the reasons why I don't teach SEO. I don't do it anymore. If I'm going to have my guy teach it, right? And what I do is do SEO if you're poor, right? Or if you don't have enough money to out. And that's fine because it's appropriate. Like, if your income's $5,000 a month and SEO would cost you $1,500, it's a big portion of your budget. For me, though, I would still take the $1,500 and outsource to really good SEO, so I could have that time freed because I know how much time it takes to really do it effectively. So I have that time freed to engage in stuff that makes me more money than the $1,500 I spent. Right? Always looking for ways to get myself more free. So I'm not going to teach it after I'm not doing it. That's why I don't teach it. But I do teach blogging because I still blog all the time, and I know if people blog all the time, they'll get results. And I teach people that they need to do SEO, but it's whether they do it or whether it's outsourced is the important thing, and where they're at in their business is the important decision to make. And then if they want to learn it, we have people who train, who actually do it. I'm not going to train something I don't do. And so I think that's real. You're always teaching what you're actively doing, and you always teach what's gotten you results, and that will keep people loyal to you. And in my niche, people follow money, right? If you're making more money than somebody, they'll still listen to you. It's just the way that it is. With a speaker, who do you want to go to? Honestly, you want to go just getting started, or do you want to go to the guy who's been doing it for 20 years and makes $5 million a year? Who? Seriously, is what there's on who you want to go to. You might not be able to afford the expensive guy, so you might go to the other one, but you want to go to that one. So follow money and results. And so if you lead by example and you stay ahead of them at their own game, it comes just this massive thing of loyalty. And the other thing is, you never judge someone, try to get them to be you, because they're not. And right? Where, people tell me to do something, and I know it doesn't work for me. And they're just still talking about how it's the most duplicatable, easy strategy that works for everyone. And I know, I get it. I'd go poor, right? So I'm going to do something that's going to make me poor. So I'm not going to do it. So it's better if you just teach the way that you're doing and leave it open enough for people to do it in their own way. For example, share with you, and I actually got to run here, and I'm putting together some another training actually after that.
Yeah.
The last is you got to. I actually forgot what it was. So next thing
that's what you're leaving us with. The next time we speak, we're going to get this little nugget.
This one's really important. It's magical. But you just want to know what that next. Well, to do that, you have to hit the buy button right now, and I'm going to teach you on the other side. There's a strategy missing that unlocks things, and a lot of people look over it. But we'll talk next time.
Listen, Dave, it's been awesome having you on the show, man. You taught so much great stuff there. I feel like buying something, and you're not even selling anything, so that's awesome. Man, where can people go to find you? What links do you want me to put under here?
Are you an affiliate on my stuff?
No.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Put my affiliate link then if you don't
Yeah,
want.
yeah, no, that's fine. I'll put it there.
Yeah. Pop a link to the Empower Network down there and go through and just go through the magical, mystical experience of buying something when you don't even know what it really is. It's just wonderful.
and knowing that you don't even need it. But I'll put a link to work with David Wood down there as well.
That's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so I'll send some people there. And yeah, man, if anything or if everything that Dave has said today caught your attention, go check him out and just go watch anything he's done, read anything he's written. And then get your credit card ready because you want to buy something.
You'll want to buy immediately, just as a warning. Just pull the credit card out and set it on the table because you're going to need it in about half an hour. Just let.
Awesome, dude. Hey, man, thanks so much for your time. You're a gem. You're an absolute legend.
Thanks, brother.
See you next time.
Good talking. Next time.